so much for joining us for the second episode of Wayne's World. I'm Wayne Dawson, and my next guest is a broadcasting legend, former NBA coach, the Hall of Famer himself, responsible for taking your Cleveland Cavaliers to not one, not two, not three, but four separate playoff appearances. He may have been born in New Jersey, but Cleveland has adopted him, and he has adopted Cleveland as his home base. Need I say more about a man who you know and love, Mr. Mike Fratello, better known as the Czar. Good. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great.
I almost said good morning because, you know, I'm used to doing the morning show. But this is afternoon. But how have you been, man?
I'm doing great, and what an honor, treat to be here next to you. And you know, we've all been praying, and we will continue to pray, and we'll wait for the news to come, which as soon as it comes, it's going to be positive and get you back on the air.
I'll be jumping for joy. Believe me, it is not good just sitting around, you know, doing nothing, and especially after, you know, being here at Fox 8 for so many years. All right, let's talk about what I call the elephant in the room, and that is our Cleveland Cavaliers, disappointed with their playoff performance. So my question to you, Coach, is what do they have to do to get to the next level? What do they have to do to win an NBA championship?
It's hard to talk about that because you're dealing with the two extremes. A 64-win season doesn't happen very often. Not many teams ever taste 60 wins during the course of the regular season. And then you go into the playoffs as the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. You have very high expectations. You go through the first round, you win 4 straight games. We have to keep in mind, Miami was not the toughest opponent from the standpoint. They were a little bit shorthanded. They were number 10. They had to play 2 sudden death games just to make it into the playoffs. Now here they come after those 2 exhausting games, play the Cavaliers, who had days off, well rested, they're on a roll, get swept 4 straight games, and everybody's sitting back saying, wow, we have all these days off to get ready for our next series. Sometimes a lot of days off can be bad, as opposed to playing every second or third day. You have 7 or 8 days off. A coach is saying to himself, what do I do with these 7, 8 days off? Well, you don't want to get hurt, Wayne. You want to be competitive in practice. You want to work on things that you have to work on, but you don't want to hurt somebody that's so key and vital to your team.
Let's talk about the Indiana series. I'm just going to put it out there. Were we out-coached? A lot of people saying we were out-coached.
No, I think what happened is we weren't ready for the toughness that Indiana displayed in that series. They came out after a tough first round, came into that series, and from game 1, they punched us right in the jaw.
How do you develop toughness in a team, though, Coach?
That comes from who you draft, who you sign as a free agent, who you trade for. You go after character in people. And then part of that character is that toughness. You've watched them from college through early years in the NBA, or maybe G League, or maybe Europe, and you've watched them play, and you know, do they have that toughness to stand up under the NBA pressure? Because the regular season is different than the playoff season.
What's the big difference?
The officials allow you to do more physicality. You've got to make shots. Here's the toughest thing. People never understood this when I would say, I had so many people in my lifetime, Wayne, say, I think I could play in the NBA. And I would say to them, well, maybe you can, but let me tell you this. You might never get a shot off in the NBA because that's how good the athletes are. They lock you up. That physicalness, the length of them. Everybody nowadays seems like is 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", long arms. They say, oh, he's 6'8", and his arms are 7'2", and you're going, wow. But when you get out on the court with them, and you see how quick they are, how fast they are, how powerful they are, to get away from them is hard to do. It's exhausting.
Let me ask you this, and I could talk to you for a couple of hours. We only got 30 minutes. How has the athlete changed from today than, say, 10, 15 years ago? How has the athlete changed?
When I got
physically, first of all.
When I got my first head coaching job, I was allowed to have 2 assistant coaches and myself, and we had to run everything, all the stuff that you do in practice, and then after practice or before practice or on the off days, meaning strength and conditioning programs. Forget about dietitians, okay? We had one trainer, Gary Briggs here in Cleveland, Joe O'Toole back in Atlanta, and those guys did it all as far as strength, conditioning, taping, treating. Well, now you're talking about staffs that have 9 assistant coaches. You have multiple people that are dealing with the nutrition of the athletes, dealing with the wellness of the athletes. How about with the Clipper organization, which I travel with them because I did their games? You have 2 psychologists that travel with the team, and they have individual meetings with the players when they're on the road.
So basically, we're talking about athletes who are very spoiled today, right?
Very spoiled.
Can you say it or what?
No, they are. They have everything that can be made possible to them to try and guarantee success for them. Now, do they have the heart? Do they have the work ethic?
Okay.
Do they have the mentality to absorb everything that's being given to them? Because for some people, it's overwhelming. It might be too much. You remember the old KISS thing, keep it simple, stupid?
Right,
okay.
right.
And that philosophy works for some people when you have to know how much can these guys absorb by giving them too much. With the staffs the size that they are, the coach has to manage the staffs. So how many meetings do you have? Do you have 2 meetings or 3 meetings just talking to the staff individually?
You look at the bench, and there's just as many coaches as there are players, it seems like sometimes, when you look at a bench.
Well, you know what they ask each other? It's funny, the assistant coaches, when they are talking to another assistant coach from another team, are you first row guy or a second row guy? Because, you know, you got to make the first row, okay? If not, you're in that second row, okay?
Let's talk about your early life. Now, a lot of people don't know. You've had a love for sports forever, right? And you grew up in what city?
I did. I grew up in North Jersey, very close to the George Washington Bridge.
Okay.
And my life was basically centered around sports. I was an only child. You get up in the morning, particularly your summer times where you got up when the sun came up, and you went out and you played all day. And your mother, father said to you, be home at this time. And my household was my father was up at 4 a.m. going to work. He took an hour off from work. He'd come back. He'd say, dinner's at 5 o'clock. And you better be in that house at 5 o'clock.
That's right.
We'd have dinner. He'd go in the car and back to work again for another 3 or 4 hours. So my day was just playing ball, going out with meet the guys at the park, meet them at the playground. And you played ball all day.
Football, what'd you play as a kid?
We did it all. When I got to high school, I wound up playing football, basketball, and baseball, all 3. When I went to college the first year, I played all 3 and was ineligible academically because I was playing all 3.
Now, what college?
I went to Montclair State in New Jersey, and my football coach called me in at the end of baseball, and he said to me, you know, you came here to play football. And he said, you're ineligible right now, so you have to go to summer school.
What position did you play, Mike? I can see you as a running back. What did you play?
In football, I was a cornerback in college.
Okay.
In college.
Okay.
I don't have to tell you basketball, you know that. And in baseball, I was a catcher in baseball. So I played behind the 27-year-old ex-Marine. He came to college after the Marines. Okay. His name was Jimmy Carvellano. He had a gun. He was a quarterback in football,
he could
too.
Throw it, huh?
Oh, God, could he throw it. So we were really good. So they'd play 7 innings, and he would go to the manager of the team, and he'd say, I'm done. Put the young kid in. So I'd get in the last 2 innings because of Jimmy every game.
How did you make your way? Okay, you played in college. How did you make your way into coaching?
I knew I wanted to coach from when I was in school. Because my dad was working so many hours, so many days, my uncle really was the one who took me to Yankee baseball games as a kid. My uncle was the one who was there at night to throw a ball with me back and forth because my dad was working. But I knew that that's what I wanted to be. I didn't know what sport at that time because I was playing everything. But then it got sorted out when I got to college. I said, I don't want to be a football coach. I thought a football coach is an overseer of everyone else, the master organizer, tight ends, split ends, wide receivers, running backs, quarterback. I wanted hands-on. I wanted to be on the court teaching and coaching, and basketball is where I gravitated to.
And your first coaching job in basketball was where?
The 9th grade team at State Street Junior High School, my 9th graders, because we went 7, 8, 9 to junior high school, 10, 11, 12 was high school. So tell me if I had the wrong idea of how easy coaching was. My center was 6'3" in 9th grade, and the next year as a sophomore, Wayne, he won the state AAU high jump championship at 6'10". My point guard's name was Orlando Christmas. He was 5'6" and dunked the ball with two hands.
You had a pretty good team.
I had a good team, yeah.
Now, okay, so how did you make your way to the NBA? I mean, a lot of people, there are a lot of high school coaches out there, a lot of ninth grade coaches, but you made your way to the National Basketball Association. How did that happen?
Well, I'm one of the luckiest people that you'll ever see, and along the way, I played against a high school that had a gentleman named Hubie Brown, and Hubie Brown coached football, basketball, and baseball. And at the end of my senior year, the last baseball game against Hubie's team, he walked up to me and he said some real, just really nice things that he said about playing against him in 3 sports and not knowing what I want to do in the future. But was I going to college? I said yes, and he said, I wish you the best, and I'll be back in touch with you. That summer, he invited me to play in his summer league when I had graduated high school already. I played in the summer league. He said, do you want to be a lifeguard at this swimming pool thing that I'm going to be the head guy? So I had my life-saving certification, so I worked as a lifeguard at his pool. So just the contact, playing it out over the years, many years later down the road, Hubie Brown called.
Who you know.
It's who you know.
That's the key. We are talking with the czar, Mike Fratello, NBA legend, and you're watching Wayne's World. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Wayne's World. We are sitting here chatting with the czar, Mike Fratello. And Mike, like I said before, man, I could talk to you for a couple of hours. And we've already used about 15 minutes, but there's so much to talk about. Hubie Brown, who you know, was he your gateway to the NBA?
Without question. When Hubie called and asked me, would you like to be an assistant on my staff in Atlanta? It was, I just finished my 3rd year at Villanova under Rolly Massimino.
Wow, great. You're talking some great people.
These are top shelf. And I had a decision to make. I was making $16,000 at Villanova in my 3rd year.
Okay.
I had a wife, 2 children, and Hubie comes in, and I know this number is going to knock you over when I tell you this, Wayne, but he offered me $35,000 to come to the NBA.
You're like, what I signed, right? You're only making 16.
16.
He doubled your salary.
3-year deal.
Almost.
35, 37.5, and $40,000.
Oh my gosh!
How about that?
Gosh! So you were assistant with Atlanta.
Yes.
You became head coach.
Eventually came back and became the head coach.
And some of the guys you coached in Atlanta, we're talking Dominique Wilkins, right?
Dominique Wilkins, Doc Rivers, Spud Webb, Kevin Willis, Tree Rollins, Randy Whitman, John Battle.
That's an all-star team, man.
I was blessed. Blessed with a group that vibrant, exciting. And we went from, our average attendance was 5,800 people a game. And at the end of my 7th year, we were at 15,500.
Yes, that's showtime, man. Now, Dominique, was he your favorite or your best player?
He was the best player that I had coached as an NBA coach. Unfortunately, when I came to Cleveland, Brad Daugherty played about 50 games and blew out both discs in his back and retired on the spot. So I only had Brad for part of my first season.
You left Atlanta, came to Cleveland. And boy, oh boy, talk about the difference in the team in Atlanta and when you got here and how you had to adapt your style.
Well, you'll chuckle at this, but I would tell the guys in Atlanta, shoot the ball before we turn it over, okay? Because then we could go get a 2nd or 3rd shot opportunity rather than turn it over and get no shots. When we came here and I lost Brad, I lost Larry Nance to 2 knee surgeries that first year. Hot Rod Williams breaks his thumb getting ready for the playoffs the first day of practice. Yes. The next season, to start out the next season, Daugherty retired, Nance retired. Hot Rod comes back from the Brooklyn, but Mark Price breaks his wrist, and Gerald Wilkins, Dominique's brother, tore his Achilles tendon.
Oh my gosh! So you were behind the 8 ball.
I looked at Wayne Embry. I said, Wayne, help!
I know that's right. So talk about those teams, the Cavalier teams that you coached. You made the playoffs.
We did. We changed our style because I saw quickly that losing a 5-time All-Star in Brad Daugherty, 8 years in the league, 5-time All-Star, 7'1", gifted, pass, score, rebound. So we changed our style of play, and we went to a style that was not the norm in the NBA. We slowed the game
I
down,
remember that, yeah.
and we were happy playing 95, 92, 92, 90 games.
Yes.
We
It wasn't pretty, but it was effective.
effective. I thought the idea was to win, and that's what we did using the players we had.
Who was your star back then?
Well, remember, we had Bobby Phills, who nobody knew,
Bobby Fields.
and Terrell Brandon had
Terrell
not come on the scene yet because he was behind Mark Price.
Right.
First year that I came, Terrell had mononucleosis. So we didn't get him back until 3/4 of the way into the season.
Okay.
So Terrell blossomed into an all-star point guard.
Yes.
Danny Ferry, who hadn't played very much, we started Danny Ferry,
Danny
as a
Ferry.
power forward, shooting those threes outside. Bobby Phil's tough as nails. Chris Mills. Then we got Michael Cage in here as a big-time rebounder.
yeah.
Then we had Tyrone Hill
I remember
came
all
in.
those guys. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then as we made the transition, we went through acquiring Vitali Potapenko, Zydrunas Ilgauskas. We brought a guy in named Sean Kemp.
Sean Kemp.
And Sean was magnificent.
Yeah.
Magnificent. He made the All-Star team,
Yes, he did.
and he led that. We started 3 rookies with Sean Kemp and Wesley Person. And those 3 rookies made the rookie game at All-Star Weekend, and Sean Kemp made the All-Star team.
You've been around basketball, the pros, for a long time. I'm gonna play the name game real quick.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm gonna throw out the name, and you just tell me your thoughts. All right. Let's start at the top. Michael Jordan.
The greatest. I mean, he's such a competitor. Each night out, you didn't get a night off. Michael wasn't giving you a night off. He wasn't one of those guys that said, tonight I'm going to take off. He enjoyed beating the opponent.
He enjoyed it. Huh?
He enjoyed beating the opponent, and he enjoyed beating him by a lot. Okay?
Shaquille O'Neal.
An incredible specimen, and I'm not sure we truly knew the greatness of Shaq. And now looking back, you see he was an unstoppable force.
Akron's own LeBron James.
LeBron, is there a record that he hasn't broken yet? He's won championships. He's broken almost every record. Look at his longevity. Incredible how he's lasted basically injury-free for the most part.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I think of when I think of LeBron. How many interviews over his career has LeBron James done? And in all the interviews he's ever done, how many mistakes has he made? Meaning, how many things has he done where you said, I shouldn't have done that, that was wrong, or he shouldn't have said that, that was wrong?
Yeah.
You could probably count them on one hand. I remember 2 of them that people, one was when he wore the Yankee hat
Right.
to an Indians baseball game
And then
back
when
then.
when he said he's going to, he made that big television production. I'm going.
The
to
production.
Miami. Yeah.
And then remember one, that he came to a Browns game, but he sat up in the Dallas box.
Oh yeah.
And,
yeah.
and so outside of that,
Yeah.
you want to find fault with this guy?
It's hard
Tell
to.
me what?
It's
How?
hard to. Magic Johnson.
Just a sensational person. I cried when the news came out. But if anybody could beat it, it would be
He
Magic.
beat it. The GOAT in your mind.
You know, Wayne, you don't know this, but when I was playing all those sports and everything, I was taking dance lessons on the side. And I'm going to dance right out of answering who the GOAT is because I'm too close to too many of them that
I
are
know
great
that's
players.
Right. I know that's right. All right, now after your career in coaching, you made your way into broadcasting. How did that happen?
My first job was for Ted Turner, the owner of
Atlanta.
TBS,
Yes.
CNN,
Okay.
et cetera, et cetera.
So you knew Ted.
So I'm working. Oh, God, Ted was great. He was just a great person.
Once again, it's who you know.
Yes, again. So I'm coaching the Hawks, and Ted calls me in one day to the office. I go in, and he said, Coach, I'm going to do this thing called goodwill games. He said, we got to get a better relationship with the Soviet Union, with Russia. And he said, I'm going to start these things called the goodwill games. He said, will you go over and broadcast some of the games if we send you over there?
Okay.
That was really my first TV assignment, going over and doing those games between USA team and the Russian national team. So that was the beginning, and then TBS gave me opportunities in the off season, and in between each job, when I left the Atlanta job, I went to NBC. NBC had just acquired the rights to the NBA. So my partner was Marv Albert.
Marv Albert.
So I got to work with Bob Costas, who was in the studio with Pat Riley. Marv Albert was my partner for the games. After 3 years, I get the Cavalier job. After 6 years with the Cavaliers, I go back to TNT. And then I was doing Nets games. I was doing Clipper games. I was doing Detroit Piston games. I was doing Miami Heat games, all in between. Then I went to Memphis. And then after 3 years in Memphis.
After coaching in Memphis.
After coaching in Memphis, after 3 years, back to TV again.
Okay. Marv Albert, a special man in your life?
He was brilliant. The wording, how he came up with things, the amount of work and time that he spent in preparation for each game so that he knew he understood the game of basketball. Okay, and then he took all of his knowledge and what he had acquired over all the years, and he had this magnificent way of delivering it. And, you know, the greatest broadcasters always had something they would fall back on. It was their thing that they would say. For Marv, it was the word yes. Guy would hit a big buck and he'd go, yes.
Yeah.
And everybody identified with Marv Albert. And he was not afraid. He never sat there and said, this guy's been a head coach in the league. I better not try to. No, he tried to teach me. He tried to help me, which I welcomed with open arms. I could never do anything but thank him and praise him.
You've had 2 Hall of Fame careers, one as a coach, another as a broadcaster. What do you like the most? What brought you the most joy? What brings you the most joy?
Well, on the 15th and 30th of the month, Wayne, coaching was great. But otherwise, having that gig on television was wonderful.
Is it a piece of cake for you or what?
Because think how many people you've met throughout your career. And that's what happens. We're blessed that we get to meet people that you would never think of. I have so many friends, Wayne, in the other sports, in the world of the NFL, in the world of Major League Baseball.
Okay. That you've met through broadcasting.
Yeah,
Is that it?
met them through broadcasting. You know, the Tommy Lasordas, the Joe Torres, the Bill Belichicks.
You and Tommy had a close relationship.
Very close, very, very close. He was like a dad to me, you know, and he'd scold me. He'd scold me at times, okay, but the greatest. When I was coaching, we'd be in the playoffs. He'd follow every game. If we got beat, he'd call up right away that night and he'd say, "Get on a plane tomorrow. Come, we're playing in St. Louis. Come on, be my guest. I want you to get a couple days away."
One final question I want to hit you with. In your mind, what are your keys to success?
I was always tunnel vision. I was a guy that knew what I wanted. I never knew, Wayne, I never said I want to be an NBA coach. I never said that in the beginning. I wanted to be in sports. I wanted to be able to coach. Probably my first goal was go back to my high school and be a high school coach there. But I put the time, I put the effort in, and as I used to say to the players on my teams, we operate with a clock that has no hands, because it may take a little bit longer than you think it should take, but we're going to get it right. You know, and in practice, we'd always announce, practice today is going to be 1 hour and 45 minutes. If we get everything in that we need to get in and we do it right. And they understood, 1 hour and 45 minutes came, if they did, that was the end of practice. I was not a guy that went over. If I told them it was 1 hour and 45, that's what if we did it right and got it done, what we needed to do. So there were no hands on the clock. You just put the time, put the effort. I didn't have summers like normal. Didn't go down the Jersey Shore. Okay, I went to camps to coach and be around great coaches that I could learn from. I gave those weeks up in the summer to try and become a better coach at what I wanted to do, which was coach basketball.
Hard work, that's the key, right?
That's it.
Mike Fratello, the czar. We didn't even talk about the czar or the telestrator.
That's okay. We'll get to it.
We'll get to that next time.
Yeah,
Appreciate you, Coach.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being with us here on Wayne's World. Once again, I'm Wayne Dawson. We'll see you next week when we talk to the self-proclaimed GOAT, the toe GOAT, Evan Reed. That's next week right here. In the meantime, understand this: whatever the mind can conceive and believe, with God's help, it can achieve. See you next week.